Hi Verbling, my name's Michaela. I'm from Phoenix, Arizona, and today I'm talking about conditionals. Hi Daniel, welcome to class.
Hi, Michaela. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Fine, thank you. It's Friday.
Finally Friday, another
Yes,
weekend coming up. What are you
yes.
doing this weekend?
I'm going to go to house my grandparents-in-law.
Wow, your grandparents-in-law.
Yes.
Sounds like
Sorry,
fun.
sorry. Parents-in-law. Sorry,
Ah, okay.
sorry. Parents-in-law.
Makes a little more sense.
Yes.
Very nice. So you'll have a relaxing weekend?
I don't know because we're planning a lot of things to do.
So it might be a little stressful.
Yes.
Well, good luck with that.
Thank you.
Anna, welcome to class.
Hi, thanks.
Anna, is this the first time I've had you in my class?
Yes, it is.
Well, it's really nice to meet you. Where are you from?
I'm from Lisbon, Portugal.
Wonderful. Glad to have you here. And what are your plans for the weekend?
Studying. I have a final in just a few weeks, so I have to spend every last minute studying.
Ooh, that sounds stressful. Good luck.
A little, a little. Thanks.
Final in what subject?
Math.
Ooh, not my favorite subject.
But it is mine, so I'm glad.
Oh, well, good. At least you're doing what you like. All right, Samuel, welcome to class.
I'm fine. How are you, Michaela?
I'm doing very well. I'm looking forward to this weekend and enjoying the nice weather. We're having some
Uh,
very nice weather here in Minas today. How are you, Samuel?
I'm fine.
Any plans for the weekend?
Yes, I will going to go out with my friend.
That's
Uh,
always nice to let loose and be free for a couple days.
yes, the music and cinema.
Very nice. What movie are you going to see?
Oh, I don't know. I need to see uh, the all films. What is the name in English? All films for cinema.
Orphans?
All films.
Oh, all films?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Sorry.
I'm not sure. You're going to see a lot of films?
Billboard.
Billboard.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And so you're going to see many films at once.
Yes. Mm.
Cool. That sounds exciting. I hope you have fun. All right. Su Ming, welcome to class.
Yes. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. About to have a very pleasant weekend. What are your plans for the weekend?
I don't have any planning for my weekends. I usually go to the beach. Yeah.
Oh, well, that's nice. That always makes for a beautiful weekend. Very cool. And Vu, welcome to class.
Nice to meet you, teacher.
Nice to meet you too. Where are you from, Vu?
I'm from Vietnam.
Awesome. I like your picture. That's very cute.
Yes,
Did you make
my girlfriend draw it.
that? It's adorable.
Yes.
All right. And last but not least, Osama. Welcome to class.
Hello,
Hi, Osama. Nice to meet you.
could you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Nice
Can
to
you
meet
hear
you
me?
too.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, I do.
Where are you
Nice
from,
to meet you as well.
Osama?
I'm from Algeria.
Excellent. It's nice to meet you and good to have you in class.
Thank you.
Ismail, welcome to class.
Thank you, teacher. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Excited about the weekend and ready for a lot of verbling classes this weekend. I have 11 planned. What are you doing this weekend, Ismail?
Uh, I'm planning to go shopping uh, on Saturday, and on Sunday I am going to have a brunch outside with my friends.
Wow, beautiful sounding. A brunch? Like a picnic brunch?
Yes,
Very cool. I'm jealous. That sounds nice.
the weather is not so hot, not so cold in Turkey. It's a perfect time.
Awesome. Yeah, the weather's very nice here as well. It's the perfect season. All right, so I'm putting the notes in the chat boxes for you guys. Today we're talking about conditionals, which is something that a lot of students need continual practice on because it can be hard to remember all the conjugation that goes with conditionals. Does everyone have the notes open?
Yes.
Awesome. And I'll screen share too, so you guys know where we are. Okay, so the first page of conditionals, we just have some notes on general conditionals. We're going to start going over type 1, type 2, and type 3. And if we have time, we'll also go over type 0. To start us off, I'm going to ask Anna to read the first 2 bullet points on our first page there.
The first, okay. Conditional sentences consist of 2 parts, the dependent subordinate if clause and the main will clause. Type 1. The dependent if clause usually indicates a real or possible situation that can happen in the present or in the future, and the main will clause expresses the result of the condition. Conditional sentence type 1 is often called the real conditional because it is used for real or possible situations. These situations take place if a certain condition is met.
Thank you very much. And for type 2 and the note below it, I'm going to ask Daniel to read for us.
Type 2. The depend the depend if indicates a situation that is possible but very unlikely to occur, and the main will clause expresses the result of the condition. Note: in if clause type 2 we usually use where, even if the pronouns is I, he, she, or it. Example: if I were you, I would not do this.
Thank you very much. And that last note, not necessary, but it's very common to say if I were you instead of if I was you.
It sounds badly if you use if I was you.
No, it's also common, but it's more common to say were. So both of them sound okay, and there's no misunderstanding there, but it's a little bit more common to say were instead of was.
Okay.
Okay. And then for our last type on this document, type 3, it is Ismail's turn to read.
Type 3. This refers to a situation in the past. An action could have happened in the past if a certain condition had been fulfilled. Things were different then. However, we just imagine what would happen if the situation had been fulfilled.
Okay. So the types go in terms of reality. So type 1 is a condition possible to fulfill. Type 2 is a condition in theory possible to fulfill. And type 3 is a condition not possible to fulfill because it's too late. You're talking about something that's already over. So to write all of these, we're going to use a combination of different conjugations. Let's have Osama. Will you read the form and all of the conjugations that go with these type 1, type 2, and type 3?
Okay. Type 2. If clause is simple present, main clause would be will plus future or modal plus infinitive. Type 2. If clause is simple past, it would be would plus infinitive. Type 3. Past perfect. Continue?
Sorry, did you say the last part? Would plus have plus past participle?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I think maybe it was my audio. I didn't hear that. Thank you very much for
My
reading.
connection is kind of okay.
Okay. So let's get some examples of those so that we can really see what it's like. Samuel, will you read us the examples on the next page of type 1, type 2, and type 3?
Okay. Type 1, main clause, I will pass the sum. If clause, if I study. Type 2, main clause, I will pass the sum. If clause, if I studied. Type 3, main clause, I would have passed the sum. If clause, if I had studied.
Okay, thank you. And it's important to remember that you can also reverse these clauses. You can start with the main clause and say, I will pass the exam if I study. Or you can start with the if clause and say, if I study, I will pass the exam. So remember that later as we're doing exercises, because it will be important to remember the conjugation with the if clause and the main clause, even if they're switched and in the opposite order. All right, so here's more examples giving us every possible formation, because sometimes we have negative or affirmative sentences, and this has a lot of examples here. So for the type 1 examples of negative, positive, long forms, and contracted forms, I'm going to ask Su Ming to read for us.
Oh, okay. With my study, I will pass the exam. With I study, I'll pass the exam. With I study, I will not fail the exam. With I study, I won't fail the exam. If I do not study, I will fail the exam. If I don't study, I'll fail the exam.
Thank you very much. And as you might have noticed, all of these words in color are color-coded to their tense. So if you go higher up, you can see that the yellow always means the will future or modal plus infinitive. The red always means simple present, and the green always means simple past, etc. So if you ever have a question, you can go back up and look at what tense that correlates to. So type 2 examples, we're on to Vu. Will you read all the type 2 examples for us?
Yes. Type 2. If I studied, I would pass the exam. Short form. If I studied, I'd pass the exam. If I studied, I would not fail the exam. If I did not study, I would fail the exam. If I didn't study, I'd fail the exam.
Thank you very much, Vu. And our last type 3 conditional set of examples. Abdallah, are you there?
Yes, hello.
Welcome to class, Abdallah. It's nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Where are you from?
I am from Palestine.
Excellent. So have you been following along with us?
I think it's the first or the second session with you.
Uh-huh. And do you have the document open that we're using in class right now on conditionals?
Yes, sure. The PDF, yes, I open it.
Excellent. Will you read the type 3 examples here that I have on the screen share, blue and pink verb phrases?
Okay, sure. The pink or all?
All of it, but the ones that have blue and pink verb conjugations.
Okay. If I had studied, I would not have failed the exam. If I had not studied, I would have failed the exam. The second box. If I would studied, I would not have failed the exam. If I hadn't studied, I would not have failed the exam.
Thank you very much. And our one more note that we have here, there's a little star below this chart, and if you go all the way back up to where we had the form, you'll notice that there are 2 stars in the would plus infinitive main clause and the would plus have plus participle main clause. And sometimes those are used with some other words. So you don't necessarily need to use would in those. You could use something like could or might or may. And this is just a note that if you guys want to try switching that out and using a different word, that you're totally welcome to experiment today and try a word other than would. Do you guys have any questions on these words here?
Yes. Would you tell me the difference between I use will, would, and had would?
Would and what?
Would and will. What's the difference when I use these 2 words in the sentence?
Will is a little more certain. So will is talking about a future event, and would is talking about it's conditional. So it's talking about something that's not yet real, but it's an idea.
Oh yeah. And use had would. That's mean in the past.
Had would?
Yeah.
I'm not sure I understand. You want to know the difference between the word had and the word would?
No. And I use if I had run the lottery, I would have bought a house.
Will you put that example in the chat box for me?
Okay.
If I may, I want to ask about would. I can use it for a question. Do you would go out, or do you would eat something like that?
Yeah, you could say, would you like a glass of water? Or would you care to go to dinner? Something like that.
Okay.
Good question. Yeah, we don't have many examples of questions here, but we'll have some practice with them later.
Okay, it's really nice.
Oh, there we go. Okay, so if I had won the lottery, I would have bought a house. Now, what is your question about that sentence there?
Yes. What is this? That means the sentence is I talking about the past.
Uh-huh.
Really?
So in this case, you're using type 3 conditional, right?
Yeah.
So is your question the difference between type 3 conditional and other conditionals?
Yes. The second conditional and this conditional. What's the difference between?
I see. So similar to what we talked about earlier when we were going over the conditionals, the third conditional is something that's not possible to fulfill because you're talking about something that happened in the past. So in your example, you're talking about what would happen if you had won the lottery. But in reality, you didn't win the lottery. So it's an impossible condition because you would have to change history in order to fulfill this condition. So that's different than the second conditional because the second conditional is something that's possible. So if you said something like, I would buy a house if I won the lottery, you're saying that if ever in the future you do win the lottery, then the next action you would take would be to buy a house. So that's something that's talking about, in theory, it's possible. It's not very likely because winning the lottery is not something that you can predict, but it's in theory possible. And if you use the first conditional, you can say, I will buy a house if I win the lottery. So that would be talking about it as if it were a reality, something very likely to occur. Of course, it's not very likely to win the lottery, but if you use the first conditional, you treat it as a likely scenario, something that's real and possible and tangible for your future. Does that make a little sense?
In the second conditional, uh, there is not possible to happen in the situation.
Yeah, it's more possible. Number 3 is impossible. Number 2 is unlikely, but possible in theory. And number 1 is something that is possible for your future.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Any other questions, including questions on the differences between these words here, would, could, might, may, should, or must? Awesome.
Yes,
If you guys,
teacher.
oh,
Sorry,
yeah, go
teacher.
ahead. Yeah.
I want to ask you about the meaning of would in this sentence I put in bubbling chat. Would Would you
Okay.
like to drink? Mm, the meaning of would in this sentence.
So when we were talking about would you like to drink water?
Yes.
So in that sentence, you're asking about the desire to drink water. And if you changed it, like if I said, could you drink water? I'm talking about capability. So would you drink water is desire. Could you drink water is your capability. Like, are you able to drink water?
Oh,
And should you drink water would be something like obligation. Like, is it a good idea for you to drink water? Would be should, meaning that there might be a reason that it's not a good idea.
that means it can be it can happen in the future.
All of these words can be used with type 2 or type 3, but they change the flavor of your statement a little bit. So it doesn't change the conditionals much. Type 2 is still unlikely and type 3 is still impossible. But if you change these words, I should pass the exam versus I might pass the exam, the flavor of your statement changes because should implies that there's some outside reason why you need it. Like maybe your parents are forcing you to, or maybe you need to get a good grade because of a college. So it's a good idea because of some outside force. Would is about your inside force. It's about your desire. So I would pass the exam, meaning that you desire to pass it. I could pass the exam talks about your capability. I'm able to pass it. I have the capacity to pass the exam. Might and may talk about just probability. It means it's not very probable. I might pass the exam, not something very probable. And may and might are used interchangeably most of the time. And then must is necessity.
Okay, okay, teacher.
Okay,
Thank you,
teacher,
teacher.
I want
Question?
to ask about,
Yeah.
yes, I would ask about must. What's the difference between have to and should and must? When I say you should or you must or you have to.
Must and have to are very similar because they're both talking about necessity. So I have to do my homework and I must do my homework. Both mean that it's necessary to complete the homework.
Okay.
Should is a little different because should implies there's an obligation or an outside force. If I say I must do my homework, I'm saying it's necessary. If I say I should do my homework, it means that there's some reason that doing my homework is a good idea, but it's not necessary. So I might say, well, I should do my homework, but I am so tired, I'm not going to.
Okay, I got it.
Awesome. Okay, and if you guys think of more questions on any of those topics, feel free to put them in the chat box at any time. But let's get into some practice. We have a lot of practice today. So we're going to start off with type 1 conditionals, which shouldn't be too hard. And if you look back at the form, you can see that the if clause is going to be in the simple present. The main clause is going to be in the will future or modal plus infinitive. So for example, I will pass the exam if I study. Simple present, will plus future. All right, number 1. Let's start on the right with vous. Will you complete number 1 for our type 1 conditionals?
Yes. If Caroline and Sue make the salad, Finn will go back home. Go back the house.
He will what? What was the last one?
Finn will go back the house.
Bike?
Go back. Will go back.
Will you put that word in the chat box? I'm not sure if I understood it properly.
Will go back.
We'll go back to the
Come
house?
back.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So if Caroline and Sue make the salad, Phil will go back to the house. Excellent. So we have make as our simple present and will go as our will plus infinitive. Thank you very much. Number 2, Su Ming. Go ahead.
Number 2. We have choose add the onions for the salad. Caroline would would the mushroom was meaning.
Mushroom is a type of fungus. It's a vegetable and it's usually brown or white and has like a little top and a stem.
Oh. mm, mm, Pluralism with mm, I don't know how to finish this.
It's okay. These sentences require a lot of creativity because you guys have to make up your own verbs for these blanks. So I'll give you a verb and then you can conjugate it. The first one you did well. You said, if Sue adds the onions for the salad, Caroline, and then we need a verb here. So I'll give you the word chop. Chop is when you cut up a vegetable into small pieces.
We'll talk the mushrooms.
Sure. So if Sue adds the onions for the salad, Caroline will chop the mushrooms. Great sentence. Thank you very much. Number 3, Samuel.
Me?
Samuel, go ahead and read number 3 of the type 1 conditionals.
Okay. Jane. Oh. What is furniture?
Furniture is things in a house like a bed, a table, a chair, anything that you use in your house for sitting or eating, or the large pieces that you use in your daily life.
All right. This is this is type 1. If I sorry, Jane stay the city room. If Aaron and Tim would oh, sorry.
So it starts with the main clause instead of the if clause this time. So in the main clause, you'll say, Jane
I don't know, sorry. No.
That's okay. So if you're not sure, we can come back up to the form where it says simple present in the if clause and will plus the future in the main clause. And since your sentence starts with the main clause and not the if clause, you know that the first blank will be Jane will, and then you can replace a verb like clean or organize, paint. So you could say maybe Jane will clean the sitting room if Aaron and Tim, and then we need a simple present tense there.
Bring
Bring?
bring the furniture.
Sure. So Jane will clean the sitting room if Aaron and Tim bring the furniture. Great sentence. Number 4 of type 1. And Osama, it's your turn. Can you fill in the blanks for number 4 in the type 1 conditionals?
Okay. If Bob, we can say if Bob cleans up the kitchen, Anita or Anita, how to pronounce this name?
Anita?
Anita will clean the toilet.
Excellent. Well done. Number 5. Ismail, will you do number 5 of type 1?
Elaine brings the drinks if somebody will help her carry the bottles.
Okay. So Elaine brings the drinks if somebody will help her carry the bottles? Great sentence.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Ismail. And now we're moving on to type 2 examples. So if we look at the form, just as a review, we know we're going to need the simple past for the if clause and would plus infinitive for the main clause. Or if you guys are feeling adventurous, you could also try one of these words here, might, would, could, should. So, simple past and would plus infinitive for type 2. Number 1 in type 2, Daniel, will you try it out for us?
Yes. Um, I, uh, I could invite all my friends if I had a house by the beach.
Excellent. Wonderful sentence. Thank you very much, Daniel.
You're welcome.
Number 2, Anna?
I was trying to use maybe could. I don't know if I can or might. No, let's use would. I would pick my friends up in my yacht. It's yacht, right?
Yacht.
If they wished to spend their holidays on my island.
Excellent. Great sentence there. And what is a yacht?
It's one of those big boats, but not. I don't know how to describe it. It's a bigger boat, but not as big as a ship. It's smaller than a ship. That's the best.
Exactly. Some kind of middle-sized pleasure boat, usually for vacations and whatnot, not for transporting anything.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, number 3 in type 2, we're all the way down to Abdallah. Will you fill in the blanks for number 3 in type 2 examples?
Okay, number 3.
Mm-hmm.
We will get great parties if my friends come to my island.
Okay, so that's a pretty good sentence, but you conjugated it more like type 1, because in type 1, when things are realistic, we use the will and the simple present. But in type 2, we use would and the simple past. So try that again. You can use the same verbs if you want, but instead of using will, use would.
Okay. We would get great parties if my friends arrived to Iceland.
Arrived?
Yeah.
Okay, sure. So the conjugation was great, and I think that the first time you said come for the second blank, and in the simple
Yes.
past that would be came, I think that would be a perfect verb. I think it sounds a little nicer than arrived, but
Okay.
both are okay. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Okay. Number 4 in type 2, we're back to the beginning with vous. Will you do type number 4 for type 2?
Okay, teacher. Wait me a minute. Number 4. If we want to go shopping in a big city, we would buy a helicopter.
All right. So you said if we wanted to go shopping in a big city, we would buy a helicopter, right? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay, excellent sentence. Thank you very much, Vu. And the
Yeah.
last example for type 2 is Suming. Will you fill that one in for us?
Number 5. But with my friends' holidays, uh, um, with my hat over, I would been very lonely on my lonely island.
Awesome. So in the first blank, what did you say? Had finished? Had.
Hat, uh, hat, HAT, hat.
Okay. So for. Yeah. All right. So for this one, had is a little strange to use because combined with over, it doesn't make much sense, but you conjugated it correctly. And the second blank was perfect. For the first blank, I think a better example would be finish or end to end. So, but if my friend's holidays, oh, sorry, no, with
Or
over, that would be
to
weird.
be over.
To be over, maybe would be best. To be over. So if my friend's holidays
Were over.
were over, yeah. I think that would be the best way to say it. I know these are kind of hard blanks to fill because you have to come up with the exact correct verb for these blanks. But that was a good sentence. All right, now we're into the hardest territory for conditionals, type 3. Type 3 conditionals use the past perfect and would plus have plus the past participle. So past perfect is had plus the participle of a verb. And it talks about an unreal situation. Also, in these examples, there's a lot of sports terms. And if you guys aren't sure of what verbs to use in these blanks, go ahead and ask, and we can talk about what verbs are the proper ones to use. So, first one in type 3, Samuel. Will you try number 1?
Okay. Sorry. Now, if the midfielders had passed the ball more exactly, our team would have had more chance to attack. Is correct.
Perfect. Great. Excellent verb. So if the midfielders had passed the ball more exactly, our team would have had more chances to attack. Good start to our type 3 conditionals. And Osama, will you do number 2 for us?
Okay. If the forwards had run faster, they would have scored more goals.
Excellent. We're going strong. Great sentence. Number 3, Ismail. Try it out for us.
Sorry. Their motivation would have been high if they had found a goal during the first half.
Awesome conjugation. So the conjugation is great. I think maybe we could find a better verb than have for the second if they had scored or something like that.
Shot a goal during the first half.
Yeah, shot would be perfect too. Great sentence, Ismail. Thank you very much. Number 4, Daniel. Go ahead and try number 4.
Yes. The fullbacks had scored one or the other goal if they could have won their opponent.
Okay, so you said the fullbacks would have. Sorry, will you repeat it for me?
Yes, sorry. The fullbacks would have scored one of the other goals if they had won their opponents.
Okay, if they had won their opponents?
Won.
Worn.
Won. W-O-N.
Okay, if they had won their
Won?
opponents. The conjugation was good. One is a little strange here because
Yes.
usually one talks about the ending of a game, like if you succeed in scoring more points, then you win a game.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we could use a verb more like distracted their opponents or bested their opponents
Okay.
or something like that. But the conjugation was good.
I didn't know American football. The
Yeah,
rules.
sometimes it's tough to come up with the verbs for these
Yes.
situations if you're
It's
unfamiliar with the vocabulary.
it's double difficult for me, this sentence.
All right. And our very last one, Anna, will you try number 5 for us?
Yes. If the goalie had jumped up, he would have caught the ball.
Sure. If he had jumped up, he would have caught the ball. Great sentences. So,
By the way,
there is, yeah.
what's a goalie?
The goalie is a person who stops a ball from entering the goal. So in soccer, there's one person in front of
Oh, in the
each
soccer.
goal.
Okay.
hmm
Yeah, I know,
but
I
it
know.
could be in hockey as well, or yeah, I think soccer and hockey are the two main sports that have goalies.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, no problem. Any other questions so far? Okay, so we have some conversation that we might get to in a little bit, but I think right now I also would like to give you guys the zero conditional notes. I have more notes for you. About the zero conditional, which is interesting and pretty simple. Also, on this second set of notes, all of the possible answers to our examples on the last sheet are there. So on the second page of this new link, you have the answers if you want to look back and confirm what you guys were thinking about these. And there are lots of different possibilities for these, but there's just an answer key if you ever want to go back and check what would be a correct conjugation. Okay, but on the first few pages of this, we talk about the zero conditional. So on page number 1, this first few blue lines, I'm going to ask Abdallah to read for us.
Okay. Zero conditional. When we talk about things that are generally or always true, we can use if, when, unless from plus present simple or imperative.
So we were talking before about type 1, type 2, and type 3. And type 3 is the least, it's the impossible form. Type 2 is more possible but still very unlikely. Type 1 is something that is possible for the future. But the zero conditional is something that is true. It's usually something true, generally true, or something being talked about generally, a general truth. We have some examples here, and we're going to go back to Vu to read them for us.
If he gets there before me, ask him to wait. When you fly buses airline, you have to pay for your drinks and snacks. Unless you need more space, a small car is big enough for one person.
Thank you very much. And the blue below that, Su Ming, will you read that for us?
Okay. In the condition clause, we can use a variety of present forms. In the result clause, they there can only be the present simple or imperative.
Mm-hmm. So we have more examples of how we can possibly conjugate these zero conditionals because there's a variety of ways. Samuel, will you read those other examples for us?
The black.
Mm-hmm.
If you visit London, go on the London Eye. If unemployment is rising, people tend to stay in their present jobs. If you have done that, you go and have a coffee. When you go on holiday, take plenty of sun cream. It be very hot. When I'm constructing, please don't make so much noise. When I've finished an article, I always ask Kate to read it through.
Thank you very much. Notice that unless means the same as if not. All right, so we have a few more examples of unless, and then we're going to make our own examples of this zero conditional together. Next person to read is Ismail. Will you read the examples using unless?
Yes. Unless he asks you politely, refuse to do any more work on the project. Unless prices are rising, it is not a good investment. Unless you have been there yourself, you don't really understand how fantastic it is.
Awesome. So let's make our own examples. There are some questions below. The first one is, what is generally true about the weather in the city you live in? And the example, when you go to the beach, take plenty of sun cream. It will be very hot. So you can make conditionals using when, if, or unless, and talk about the generally true weather in the city you live in. So if I were going to come visit and you had to give me advice on what to wear or what to bring, you can use this sentence to give me that advice. Write a sentence in the chat box, and whenever you're ready, you can send it, and we'll talk about the sentences. We've got one good one already. If you heat ice, it melts. Generally a truth. The next one, when you come to Salamanca, be careful with your pocket in the city center. Ooh, is it a dangerous place to be robbed?
No, I'm
Good
joking.
sentence. I see. I guess any big city is a place you should be careful for sure.
It's a small city. No problem.
Oh! All right. Good sentence, though. And for anyone who finished the first one already, you can feel free to write the second one, what is always true about transportation in your country. So try again and try to mix it up. So if there's anything you're not really sure you know how to use, if you don't have much experience using the word unless, or you're not sure exactly which tenses that it's okay to use in the zero conditional, experiment a little so we can talk about these situations. One more in the chat box. When you go out in rainy weather, don't forget to take an umbrella. Perfect, Ismail. If you come to Lisbon in April, bring an umbrella. It will be raining. Excellent job, Anna. So it's really rainy in April?
Most of the years it is. There might be a year that it isn't. We even have one of those expressions like it rains like cats and dogs, but we have our own, and it talks about April. It's like in April it rains a lot.
Dogs and
Very
cats.
cute.
Yeah. It says something like April 1,000 waters. It doesn't make much sense in English, but in Portuguese it makes a lot of sense. It's just a way of saying it will rain a lot.
Thanks for sharing, Anna. And let's see. When you come to the gym, ask about person called John. All right, good advice. Just a couple small grammatical errors. It's the gym. When you come to the gym, ask about a person called John.
Okay.
Just a couple articles, but it's a great, wonderfully conjugated sentence. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Unless everything is done, nothing is done. Ooh. Words for the wise. It seems like some advice, like a proverb or something. When you cook noodle food, you should add some herbs. Sounds like you're a chef. Couple spelling errors here. It's noodle with 2 O's, and herbs probably should be plural in that sense. Or you could say an herb as well. That would be another alternative. When you go to Paris, don't care someone asks you what time it is, because who will steal your money? So are you trying to say don't pay attention?
Yeah.
When you go to Paris, don't pay attention.
No. Don't care someone. That means you don't need to reply to him.
Okay, so should you respond if someone asks you what time is it? Should I respond or ignore?
Well, you don't need to. How to say? You don't need to talk to him.
So it's best not to talk.
You should take care of your wallet, because a person asks you what time is it, and when you tell him the time, another person will steal your wallet.
Okay. Oh, I see. So don't pay attention to someone who asks you what time it is, because they will steal your wallet.
Yeah.
Good advice. All right, we have a couple more before we finish up. Unless you are above the age of 18, you may not go into a bar. True story. If the subway goes on strike, the buses will be completely full. I hate when that happens. All right. So we're just about finished with class, and it looks like you guys have the hang of it all. Are there any other questions before we finish up? Okay.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. And if anyone wants to friend me on Facebook, you can friend me at Michaela Affadani on Facebook. See you guys again soon. Bye.
Have,
Thank you for
have
your
a fun
class.
day.
Bye.
Thank you, teacher.